This season, I wanted to finally win a conference championship, and we had a decent chance. My junior year was off to a bad start as I threw this interception, but on the next possession, I found my favorite target, Quentin Moore, for a 42-yard gain. And then I turned into prime Michael Vick as I ran circles around the Rainbow Warriors, and I put my Huskies on the board first. Another goal I had was to avoid getting hurt as much this year, but right before the half, I got destroyed, and I was already in a ton of pain. Fortunately, my defense was able to force a turnover, so I avoided the sack and I went to dive for the pylon, but instead I connected with Giles Jackson for 6. Everything was working out for me, and I was even sliding at the end of my runs to avoid injury. And then midway through the third quarter, I bombed Hawaii with this throw over their defense to sophomore wide receiver Jalen Polk. It felt good to finally dominate and do whatever I wanted against a team, but we had to keep our momentum at Boise State, and even though I was moving my team all the way down the field, I was getting really frustrated with the play calling on third down. Every single time it was a halfback draw, and it never worked. But despite that, I persevered and I threw this laser. Honestly, I couldn't stand running halfback draw over and over, so I knew that I would have to build up my coach trust to where he'd let me call the plays. We went up 10 points midway through the third quarter, and we were going to start the year 2-0. Once again, I played amazing, and later that week, I went out and dominated for the whole 4-hour practice, so Deion Sanders was starting to trust me more. I started week 4 against Akron off with an early touchdown drive, and then I found Quentin Moore for 6 to start the second quarter. He was completely feasting against the Zips, and on the next play, I scrambled in to increase our lead by even more. I won yet another player of the game, and then I was taking on an undefeated Oregon State team where tight end Quentin Moore was breaking tackles and playing on a whole other level. But then I rolled out and I threw this pass straight to the Beaver defense. Later on, it was 4th and 3, so we ran a halfback draw that failed, which meant I wasn't able to get my team on the board until midway through the second quarter. Right before halftime, I ran in the end zone to give us a solid lead, but I fumbled it away just a few minutes later when I couldn't hold on to the ball and Oregon State picked it up to take it back to the house. With 4 minutes left in the game, the Beavers had tied it up, and I was going to need to figure out how to lead the Huskies down the field. So I dropped back and I found Giles Jackson to get us in field goal range, and instead of running out the clock, I tried to make a huge play and put us up 7, but I fell just short of reaching the end zone. However, Cameron Davis rushed in on the next play, and after our defense got a massive interception, we ran out the clock. So we were still undefeated, and we were in the top 10, but if we wanted to stay there, we would have to pull out a win at Memorial Coliseum. I was off to a hot start as I used my legs to scramble and outrun the entire Trojan defense for a 22-yard touchdown, and midway through the second quarter, I threw this dot to Roma Dunze to increase our lead to 28. Closer to halftime, I dropped this bomb to my favorite receiver, Quentin Moore, and he took it into the end zone with ease. I honestly couldn't believe how easily we were winning, and I just kept on scoring. So I finished with 6 touchdowns, and after another really solid performance at practice, Deion Sanders trusted me to flip the play calls. I was excited to open up our home game against California as a veteran starter. However, I got hurt for the first time in a long time after taking a hit on this play. But with 2 minutes left in the second quarter, I was back in the game, and we were able to take a lead right before the half. By the third quarter, I was on fire, and I was hitting every window I attempted to throw through. Going into the fourth quarter, we were up 7, and I extended that lead with this dot to Quentin Moore. But California wasn't willing to go out without a fight. Fortunately, I wanted to make sure we stayed undefeated, and I was going to do anything I could to make sure we walked out of our stadium with a win. After I made the Golden Bears burn all of their timeouts, I used my short, fast legs to pick up the first down, and we were 6-0. Unfortunately, I wasn't on the Heisman watch, but we were on top of the Pac-12, and we had to continue to win, so taking down the Sun Devils at home was my next task. I started the game off by threading the needle and finding sophomore Jalen Polk in the end zone for 6. Even though Arizona State responded right back, I wasn't worried because I was able to use my cannon of an arm to connect with Giles Jackson, who outran the entire Sun Devil defense. And low-key, Giles Jackson was starting to become my favorite target and my first read. Unfortunately, our defense wasn't showing up, so we were in a tie game with less than 2 minutes left in the second quarter. But I was running and slinging the ball all over the field, so when this ball flew 50 yards in the air to Jalen McMillan, I wasn't even surprised. A minute later, somehow the Sun Devils got into the end zone, but with 22 seconds left in the half, this pass to Thomas Collins for a 75-yard touchdown turned this game into our biggest shootout yet. It was also my best collegiate performance so far, as I threw for my 6th touchdown with 4 minutes left in the game. Our defense finally decided to lock up, and at this point, I was just showing off my arm. That touchdown throw put me in the school record books, and I finished with an insane stat line which got me my first NIL sponsor. Whenever I'm watching sports, I want them to be as entertaining as possible. For example, have you ever been watching a game and you have an idea that a certain player is going to do really well, but you don't know what to do with that information? Well, Underdog Sports lets you do pick'ems. You can choose up to 5 players to pick an over or under on, and if all of those hit, you could turn $5 into $100 in just one night of watching sports. So before you start watching football this fall, make sure to use the first link in my description or visit Underdog Fantasy and use code Bordeaux. They'll double your first deposit up to $100, and I can't wait to see you all on there. Anyways, we were playing at Stanford, and we were not off to a good start. It was a rough first quarter, and I don't even know where I was trying to place this ball. To add to the pain, my receivers were not able to catch anything, and there was nothing I could do to move the ball down the field. Going into the second half, we were down 20, so we had a lot of work to do. I continued to feed Giles Jackson the ball as much as I could, and we got all the way down to the goal line, but Stanford held me on 4th down. When I took us all the way to the 2 on the next drive, my lineman just let me die, and I was rolled out for the rest of the game, so we ended up losing for the first time this season. However, we were still on top of the Pac-12 North, but we had to figure out how to win again. Through 2 drives, I hadn't thrown a pass yet, and on the 9th straight run play, Richard Newton was locked up. Coach Sanders finally let me throw my first pass with 4 minutes left in the second quarter, and it was an absolute beauty to Giles Jackson, who would make it a 47-yard gain. After that, the ball was out of my hands, but at least we scored, and when I finally had my chance to sling it, I dropped back and threw the ball 50 yards in the air to hit wide receiver Jalen McMillan in stride for a 91-yard touchdown. I found Giles Jackson with a minute left in the third quarter, but he fell just short of the end zone. But fortunately, Richard Newton got in a few plays later. And even though Arizona scored, they didn't get the 2-point conversion, and we had a chance to end the game. So on 3rd and goal, I rolled out and found Jalen Polk to give us a 9-point lead, and we escaped with our 8th win of the year. We were playing at Colorado, and we were ranked 11th in the nation, so we were going to need to win out if we wanted a chance at the conference championship and the college football playoffs. I got us on the board as fast as I could. Near the end of the first quarter, Cameron Davis ran the worst halfback dive ever, and we had to settle for 3. By the second half, I was able to slow the game down in my head and dissect the Buffalo's defense, and on the next play, Cameron Davis ran the ball in. Late in the third quarter, I continued to dominate, and even though our defense let Colorado back in it, I was able to run out the clock, so we picked up our 9th win of the year. But our game against Oregon was coming up, and this game would decide who makes the Pac-12 championship. So it was crucial that I came out and played well, and that's exactly what I did, finding Quentin Moore for my first 2 touchdowns. And then for my third, I bombed the Ducks defense by hitting Thomas Collins in stride to take a 2-possession lead. I was playing on another level until I lobbed the ball up and prayed it would go well, but it didn't. So it was a close game, but I hit Giles Jackson on the deep post, and he would take it all the way down to the Oregon 5-yard line, and then I'd get us another 7 with this throw a few plays later. Unfortunately, our defense wasn't clutch, and after we couldn't pick up this 3rd down, it was the Ducks' ball. They scored a touchdown, so I had 90 seconds to lead us down the field. But on 4th and 9, Giles Jackson dropped what would have been an easy first down, and we lost to Oregon at home. However, if they lost to Oregon State, we would make the Pac-12 championship, so we had to win the Apple Cup, and I started the game off with a 49-yard bomb to Jalen McMillan. A couple plays later, I found my fullback in the end zone for 6, and I was excited to be off to such a good start in our rivalry game. I was playing on an unstoppable level, and right before halftime, I scrambled around the Washington State defense to pick up my 4th touchdown of the game. Midway through the third quarter, Thomas Collins completely dusted the deep safety, and I found him over the top of the defense for a 63-yard touchdown. We were completely dominating, and it felt good to win the Apple Cup. But Oregon beat Oregon State, so we missed out on the Pac-12 championship, but I still had a bowl game to play in. On 4th and 5, I found Jalen McMillan, who broke the tackle from the cornerback and took it 27 yards to the house. But on the next drive, Oklahoma State didn't fall for the play action, and I got sacked for a safety. With less than 30 seconds left in the half, I was determined to get us within 1 possession, and we ended up coming just short of reaching the end zone, so we settled for 3. To start the third quarter, I drove us all the way down the field, and I finished off the drive by pitching it to Richard Newton. But with 3 minutes left in the game, we were down 7, so I was working it all the way down the field, and we were on the 9-yard line after I connected with Roma Dunze. On 3rd and goal, Giles Jackson dropped it, and on 4th and goal, the blitzer ran straight through my offensive line and chased me down before I could do anything. So the season ended on a bad note, but my senior year was going to be special.